Hello everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Now, I want to do a quick little news segment here at the beginning of the video. I did one last week because we got quite a few things going on. First of all, I would like to thank all of you who come by the Twitch stream. Big thank you. We're very close to 30,000 Twitch followers. When I hit that, I'll be giving away a Mrhappy branded t-shirt or hoodie. I also just re-hit 700 subscribers on Twitch, thanks to all of you awesome people, and gave away a shirt or hoodie for that as well, for those of you who don't know. We have Mrhappy t-shirts and hoodies available for the next 7 or 8 days or so. You can find those. I'll put a link under this video. You can also go to my Twitch channel and look in the little information panels under, and you'll see it there as well. What else do we have? We also have Blade and Soul. I had some stuff planned for Blade and Soul this last weekend. However, with it being a technical alpha, there was a bit more downtime, a little bit more lag, as they were using it more as a stress test than anything else. So I didn't get a whole lot done. Also, on top of that, I did a lot of prepping for Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns this Friday. Even did a video where I just kind of read up on all the things that are changing in Heart of Thorns. Because honestly, I'm usually pretty aware of what's going on in an MMO expansion. I had really not enough of a clue about Heart of Thorns. So I decided to do a video about that. You can find that in some of the recent videos here on the YouTube channel. And on top of that, we have a partnership with ArenaNet now, and I am terrible shouting out partners, so I really got to start doing this now more often. Where if you download Guild Wars 2 and you try it for free, because the base game is free to play now, for those who didn't know, and if you get to at least level 2, you're directly supporting the stream. Of course, if you want to come by the stream and play with other people in the chat, or come by whenever we're doing open world zergs for leveling alts or world versus world, whatever it is you want to do, you're more than welcome, even though we can only fit 5 people to a party. With some of the features coming in Heart of Thorns, hopefully we're able to change that up a little bit. Now, we also have Heart of Thorns on sale. Sorry, just selling it. If you buy it through me as well, it'll support the stream. But I want you guys to try it out for free first and see if you even enjoy it before you even think about buying the expansion. Now, we got questions to get to. Don't worry, it's Mondays with Mrhappy. The questions and the answers will always be here. So, what do you say we get right into the meat of everything so you can get what you guys came for? Alright, first question. First time poster. I've been hearing a lot of chatters on my free company in LS, as well as the official 14 forums, that Warriors are OP and need a nerf. Not by a little, but by a lot. What do you think about this topic and rumors that Warriors will be nerfed in 3.1, and what changes do Square Enix have in store? Here's the thing. So I've been seeing a lot of the arguments about why Warrior's OP, and I do agree Warrior is head and shoulders above the other two tanks for multiple reasons, mostly because Storm's Path has dual functionality. You know, it's not just physical, it's not just magical, it's both. So it's pretty hard to turn that away from a raid group if we're talking about optimizations. They also have very high DPS output, although if you look, Dark Knights have been doing a lot better. They're getting, the numbers between the two are getting quite a bit closer, as Dark Knights are given a little bit more love, and Warriors are put in a little bit more compromising situations. One reason I've seen that I don't like for why they should be nerfed is the solo videos. Like there's, Xeno's solo video for Titan Extreme. You have the Turn 4 solo video, the Leviathan Extreme solo video. It's like you can't use a solo video as a reason to nerf a class, because at that point, once Warrior can't do it, it's like, all right, now no one can do it. Well, not at least till we get way more gear. And then it's all, actually, no, I take it back. Then it's only the healers can do it, and only if the healers can output enough DPS. I can almost solo what's it called? The Chrysalis on my Scholar. I got it down to 37. I got the Meteor, the Tear, down to 37%. And I could have had it down to like 20 if I had played it a little bit better. And that's not with a lot of gear. Like I have my 210 weapon, but everything else is like, I went 90. So if I had actually used food and a mind potion for burst DPS, I could have absolutely soloed the Chrysalis. But that doesn't mean Astro needs to be nerfed. It just means that it's a good solo. I do think Warriors may be a little bit too far ahead. And I think the issue doesn't even lie in Storm's Path. Part of it does, but the fact that they have limitless TP is my biggest bother. And I say limitless because every time you get 5 stacks of Infuriate or 5 stacks of Abandon, you get a free GCD that doesn't cost any TP. And that, honestly, on top of the fact they have Equilibrium in Deliverance to give them 200 TP, is insane. So yeah, I do think there are things they could do to dial back the Warrior. I think it's more important to bring the other two tanks up to speed, though. I'd rather they do that, because that's a far more fulfilling thing. When a Dark Knight and a Paladin are like, yes, we're getting love, as opposed to all the Warriors like, well, what the hell? Don't nerf us. I do agree they're a bit too far ahead, and maybe we'll see some changes in 3.1. I don't expect nerfs to the Warrior in 3.1. I expect buffs to the Paladin, potentially, in 3.1. Maybe the Dark Knight, but mostly just the Paladin. Next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, longtime viewer, first-time asker, so I have a Moogle of your choice to murder. Damn, that's harsh. 2 fun questions. All right, they both seem pretty short. Let's see. Do you think that Rowena's magic will work in favor for Idleshire? Meaning, will we see a visual upgrade from patch to patch? Oh, I'm expecting a visual upgrade in 3.1, if not 3.2. I'm absolutely expecting that to evolve over time like Mordona did. I hope it does. I would be really disappointed if it doesn't, believe it or not. And the second question here is, I know you are no Owl-Ra, but there's one thing I'd like to hear your opinion on. How do Owl-Ra hear shit? So if I remember correctly, their horns are actually their ears. They can hear through them. I don't know the exact explanation, but I'm 90% positive that that was the explanation given to it. And keep on doing good work and give Mel a community hug, which I just forced onto everyone, but oh well. Here, there you go. Here, community hug. I'll hug my girlfriend when I see her in December before I move to LA. So, all right, on to the next question. Next question. Yay, not a hap. Aw. Second time asker, so free company gold bonus because why not? Huh? Today I have an FFXIV lore related question. Oh, 1.0. You played through 1.0 story, you could help me understand. What had horse font for a role in 1.0? As far as I remember, he didn't. He did not see the light of day until A Realm Reborn. And he's not the only one. I see you call him borderline fanboyish to the Warrior of Light. He's not the only one. Half of the entire world is borderline fanboyish to the Warrior of Light. But I'm almost positive he had no role in 1.0 and that he wasn't introduced until we went to do Stone Vigil or we went to start working on the part of the main story for Stone Vigil in A Realm Reborn. I'm always open to people correcting me on that, but I'm almost positive that's where we first saw him there. Anyway, thanks for your question. Next question. All right, next one. Hey, happy question for week 62. Has some tomes for 4.0. Why is everyone giving me tomes for 4.0? I don't need those. I need SOs. So here's a fast and fun question for the next job. Puppet Master versus Beastmaster. Who wins? By the way, Puppet Master wins for me. As cool as it would be to see my beloved Puppet Master make its return, Beastmaster seems like a more likely choice. We only have 1 pet job in the game right now, and obviously these are between 2 pet jobs, but the Beastmaster is one. There's multiple routes to take with the Beastmaster. You could do it as like a melee pet job, or you could do it as sort of like the Bard equivalent, sort of like a Hunter equivalent for Final Fantasy XIV from World of Warcraft. But there's also the possibility that the Beastmaster takes on the role of transforming into beasts, which would give it a more Druid-esque, I guess, role, whatever that may be. By that point, we probably have skill trees, I'd imagine, but even so, I'm not expecting Beastmaster or Puppet Master to be on the 4.0 list. If either of them, though, I expect it would be Beastmaster. Puppet Master is just, it's a little too off the wall. Like, even though it's, you know, Machinist and Astrologian were off the wall with how uncommonly they were used before Realm Reborn. I don't know, I just don't see Puppet Master being the one they choose. They have so many other ones they got to get through first. Next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, second time posting, so no bonus, but as goes light, so goes chlamydia. That one's for Sly. If you watch State of the Realm, you guys have got that joke. So I had an idea for speedruns. What do you think about a speedrun recorder that would record a data center wide time for the fastest group to clear a dungeon or trial? Some of the way BCNMs works. When you would enter, it would show you the name and time of the group that cleared it fastest, although with 14 it would have to be more detailed information about the group and possibly have special titles for the group that cleared it the quickest. I don't think special titles would probably be a thing. I think the bragging rights of being the fastest for whatever time frame it is, because you couldn't, like, you give them titles and then what, as soon as somebody's faster than them, you take those titles away. They've already mentioned time trials, but not just for the trials or the dungeons, but for using the item level sync feature that they have, where you can actually sync yourself to the minimum item level required. So I guess in the case if you look at First Coil and the Duty Finder, that would be what, 70 for turn 1, 73 for turn 2, 77 I think for turn 4, and then 82 for turn 5, and then you have like 90, 95, 100, 105 for the other ones. The problem is a lot of those minimum item level syncs are not really that low. Like, I'd say the most interesting minimum item level syncs are like the Crystal Tower, where I imagine doing that at full I-55 and it sounds like a nightmare. But that would be fun, and that's where we're expecting the time trials to come out based on the information that they gave us. I'm all for it. I just don't think the standard ones are all that cool. Maybe on more recent content, but just not on old content. Like, the undersized one's far more interesting, to me at the very least, than running through things with a bunch of level 60s, you know? Next question. Hey, Happy, here's inspiration for a snack idea. Use bacon and chorizo. Why do you got to do that to me? It's too late for me to eat dinner at this, or to eat food. I don't even have bacon in the house. Do you think the story world needs a big bad thing? That thing in your story that you have like multiple encounters or world encounters you can't really beat it anytime soon. You just want to survive their fights. Think about mentors in MMORPGs? Do you think that difficulty and complexity help build a strong community? Ever been a mentor, and did you care for it? Wow, that was a lot of questions crammed in there. That was like 5 questions. So the world needs a big bad thing. Odin used to be that big bad thing where we beat him and he'd always come back, and there was always that threat, but then we would just then they fixed it so it didn't crash the server, so we would just mow over him. I'm not opposed to the idea. I think it gives the world a little bit more threat, like almost as if Alexander had an entire zone dedicated to him, and there were events and chains of events that involved him and certain enemies that had to do with him or that worked for him. It would be far more interesting, I feel. As for mentors, I like the idea of a mentor, but only if that mentor actually does something. When you sign up to be a mentor in an MMO, and I think Final Fantasy XI, you can't tell, like, if some new person asks you, oh, do you know where this is? You can't be like, fuck you, I don't care. You have to be a good person and ask and, help that person. So I think it's a good idea to have, because the people who sign up for it are hopefully people who are genuinely interested in doing it. Do you think that difficulty and complexity help build a strong community? Some difficulty and complexity, and it also needs some simplicity, I feel, because otherwise, you have people who aren't interested in difficulty and complexity, and it doesn't help. They're not interested in it, and it doesn't really help build a community, because then it separates you between the people that do like it and the people that don't like it. Never been a mentor? No. I do too much work on the side when it comes to, like, YouTube and Twitch. I don't have the time to sit there and help people too often. Occasionally, if I'm, like, hitting a dummy on my ninja, someone says, hey, man, give me a few quick tips, I'll do it. I just, I can't sit there and mentor them. I don't have the time to do it, unfortunately. But I do appreciate the people that do take their time out to do it. All right, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. First time poster. Here's 10,000 bind bills. Sure, I'll get a relic weapon with that. Maybe we'll need 10,000 bind bills for this next relic weapon. Ooh. Sorry about any mistypes on a piece of shit phone. That's all right. Old 11 and WoW player YouTuber. I've always been a hardcore raider, competing for world server first until a few years ago. Because of work, I stopped playing MMOs altogether until recently, when I came back to 14 just prior to Heaven's Word, and have joined the raid scene in a somewhat casual approach. My static is currently working on A3 Savage, but I feel some members are taking a rather carefree attitude. I think I had a question like this last week. Myself and another DPS are high ranking on FFXIV and are currently trying to improve DPS. One of our DPS especially seems not to try, finishing up A1 Savage at about 800, 900. Ooh, rough. As an I-197 Dragoon, for an example, it's blamed on gear and using a controller. If you have an I-200 weapon, then hell, even with an I-180 weapon, you can do more than that in A1 Savage, as long as you can land the hits. I personally, in the past, would have had him bench or kicked until he improved, but because they are all close friends, I cannot say anything. What sort of approach would you take in fixing this without causing drama? Or would you look for another static? Honestly, I have no idea how to deal with it in a positive way without unintentionally causing drama. Yeah, that's the roughest thing, because you can approach this. So every time I get asked a question like this, it makes me think back to, I've had at least 2 or 3 runs like this, where you go into Cutter's Cry, and I believe Cutter's Cry is one of the first dungeons where black mages are really using the whole Fire 3, Blizzard 3, shifting between the forms. And a lot of the times you'll see the black mages that think, oh, I'm just supposed to spam Fire 3, and then I switch to Blizzard 3 and I spam Blizzard 3. And you try to help them out. You go, hey man, I don't want to be a dick, or I just know that other people will give you a hard time if they see this, but that's not the way that Fire 3 and Blizzard 3 are supposed to be used. And I can think of about 50% of the time I say that, I either get no response, or the person says, I don't care, fuck off, or something like that. And it's like you're saying it in the nicest possible way, because somebody else is not going to say it a nice way to them. They're literally just going to be confrontational and be like, what the fuck are you doing? You're a piece of shit. You're playing like shit. That's not how you do it. What the hell are you doing? Dude, what the fuck? Like, that's going to be their entire way of approaching the situation, and you want to protect that player from that situation. In a static, that situation is not just a one-time finding that black mage in the duty finder. This is somebody you have to see over and over and over again, and it makes things really hard to do without causing unintentional drama. The best thing to do is just, you have to confront them. Like, you can't ever just let a raid problem go untalked about, because guess what? That raid problem will eventually blow everything up. You can't allow for it to happen. Ultimately, perhaps getting together with the raid's leaders, talking to them about it first, then bringing the Dragoon in and being like, hey man, just, we want to talk to you about your DPS, because it's not where it needs to be for our group. Don't say it's not where it should be and then pull up FF logs and be like, see this Dragoon doing 1400 DPS? Why aren't you doing 14? Don't do that, because that's unrealistic. That's not every Dragoon. That's not what your group needs. That's what your group would kill to have, but that's not what your group's focus. Like, set a reasonable goal. You know, we want at least 1100 out of you in this fight, or we want at least, you know, X amount of DPS in the first minute, or that way you can at least understand, you know, see if they're even able to meet minimum checks towards the beginning of the fight. So set a realistic goal, have a group talk about it, find out what he's doing, and actively search for resources for him. For example, in this case, a Dragoon. Derby's Dragoon per second guide is a perfect one. I've had to bring that up a lot, but that's because it's a great reference point. And you got to feed him the resources, and he's got to absorb it. If he doesn't improve, that's where things get rough, because bringing this up without causing drama can be somewhat okay, but if it doesn't improve, it's almost impossible to get the situation out without any drama. So I'd say take it that step first. Keep me updated. And I mean, even if you don't keep me updated, it's going to be rough if he doesn't improve at all, or if he shows no care to improve. At that point, he either needs a reality check, unfortunately. You need to maybe pick up a different Dragoon, or maybe you will have to leave the static. I think that's the last case. It's worse for you to leave 7 people than for one person to be, you know, removed and replaced. And I think it wouldn't be that bad to replace a Dragoon. I just don't want that to be what you have to lead to. So hopefully he's receptive to that information. Just go at it slowly. Don't just tackle him saying you suck or anything like that. Be gentle. Alright, next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, no bonus, but since I don't know many main ninjas, you can be my rival. Okay. My question is this: with Final Fantasy XIV bringing in an original race never before seen, do you think we'll see an original job never before seen? Ooh. Well, I would like to think of Blade Dancer job similar to Blade and Soul. I mean, that's not really too original. Blade Dancer only makes sense in the context of Blade and Soul. Not that you couldn't adapt it to Final Fantasy XIV, like Assassin would be adapted to Ninja, but a Blade Dancer could probably just, we could just get a dancer, a regular dancer, and they got blades, they got daggers. Yeah, I think one day we may see an original job in Final Fantasy XIV. We've seen at least somewhat unique ways of approaching the jobs as a whole now, you know, with Dark Knight not being primarily this damage dealing, you know, HP draining monster. Yes, they have some of those things, but that's not their theme, you know. So I think that with some of the themes being more original, we could definitely see a fully original job in Final Fantasy XIV. I don't think it's going to happen until at least 5 or 6.0, so we're pretty far away from that, but it would be pretty cool. Alright, next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, hope all is well. Thank you for getting to my question last week. I have 2 questions unrelated to Final Fantasy. My first question, how do you feel about reading drama, negativity, quarrels, or toxicity on your channel? Like, how do you respond to it? Unbothered, you get a kick out of it, it upsets you. I made a post about comparing quarantine method on A4 mechanics to an anime-like scenario and some, I don't know what that word means, never heard it before, not gonna say it. Tried to make me feel stupid for comparing it to that. So I decided to defend myself. So I have like a mixed bag. It really depends on the day. Most of the time I'm unbothered. Sometimes I get a kick out of it. And at some points it upsets me, but it's usually when someone presents an opinion as a fact and doesn't really know what they're saying. And I do that from time to time as well, and I'm openly willing to accept when I say something that is completely non-factual or just opinionated. But I'll usually say, in my opinion, this is the case, or something along those lines. When it comes to stuff like that, like literal hate messages, it's like either just delete them or like thank the person for coming by the video or something like that, because it's like I can't waste all my time on this. I used to waste way too much time on the negativity, and honestly, ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. So it's the internet. Like, people are gonna disagree with you. People are gonna be asshats. What are you gonna do, right? You just gotta move past it and try not to let it bother you. And the second question, how did you and your current girlfriend meet, and how come you guys are so far apart living-wise? So, originally we met because a bunch of real-life friends of mine, I say real life as if that, like, is a different thing. People I knew from my town, or people that lived around me, I guess I should say, they wanted to play Ragnarok Online 2. A lot of them played RO1, they wanted to play RO2, they wanted to be a raiding guild, and they just wanted to enjoy the game. I was making fun of them because I saw the game and I was like, this is going to be so fucking bad, and they wouldn't listen to me. They said, I don't care, it's RO, and I was like, all right, I'll play too. So I decided to play, and we had a bunch of people apply to our guild who I can't remember the name of for the life of me at this point. I know my girlfriend knows it, and she joined that guild. Looking to raid, looking to do the endgame raids in RO2. She was also, you know, a diehard RO player. And, you know, we didn't last that long in the raiding scene. Too many people, too many conflicting interests. A lot of people who had joined the guild weren't exactly quality players, I guess I should say. Mel was a quality player, though. She was a healer. And, she eventually left to join Collision, who is raiding in RO2. That's how I met Foldosaurus, and quite a few other people who play Final Fantasy XIV Blade and Soul come by the stream and are part of the community right now. And, you know, just while she was in the guild, I got to know her. We started talking, and for a long time, I had this kind of fear of commitment. I refused to use the term boyfriend and girlfriend because to me it felt like such a Facebook thing. And I was like, oh, you know, those words don't mean anything to me, you know, because, you know, I see them on Facebook. It's like, oh, it's meet my boyfriend, meet my girlfriend. It's like, I don't know, it seems so high school to me. But having a label of some sort, you know, mattered a lot to her, so I put that aside, and I said, you know what, we're official, you know, we are boyfriend, girlfriend. We have been this whole time, you know, ever since a certain point. And, you know, I accept that now. I accept the term. I understand that it isn't just some sort of high school sort of, you know, kiddie thing anymore, that it is a legitimate term that is used, you know, even amongst adults. So that's how we met, through RO2, through the raiding scene, and the reason why we're living so far apart is because we met that way through an MMO, and she lives in LA, I live in New Jersey. We won't be living far apart for long, though, since I will be moving to LA. I will be moving to LA in January after she comes to visit me here in December. So, yeah, luckily that won't be an issue for much longer. Although, we got to get used to living together, like, for longer than a few weeks at a time, which I'm sure is going to have some growing pains and adjustments, but luckily we've already had some practice, so I'm looking forward to it. She's a wonder. Man, I hit the jackpot. Let's just say that. I'll move on to the next question before I embarrass myself too much more. Next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, a gobby hello to you. I was wondering if you have any thoughts of doing a Let's Play of Type 0 now that the motion blur has been patched and they have a PC release. They just beat the game, thought it would be a blast. Thanks and keeps well. The problem is time. I don't have the time to play through Type 0. I got too many other things going on right now. And honestly, while the open world combat, the motion blur is completely tolerable now, there are still some points in the game where the motion blur is completely agonizing. One place that comes to mind is the Academy itself. So I mostly just don't have the time to do it. I'd rather invest in games that are coming out from this point on, like Fallout 4, like patch 3.1, like Heart of Thorns, like Blade and Soul, Wildstar still. I got to get back in that because I want to get to level 50. But regardless, yeah, that probably won't see a playthrough anytime soon. Alright, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy, long-time viewer, first-time asker, so philosophy bonus. You guys just joshing me all the time here. Okay. An esoterics upgrade item. Okay, now we're talking. We've got a few questions for you, but if you're limited in time, which you probably are, please answer as many as you can. Oh, okay. Question 1. Labyrinth of the Ancients, ST, and WAD queues. Choose one, but there's way too many stipulations going on here. Let me see if I can find one that's easier to understand. Expert Roulette and new dungeons. The 2 new dungeons will be... Are you just asking me which one do I think these things will happen? It's not made entirely clear here. Question 2, Expert Roulette and new dungeons. Number 2A, the 2 new dungeons will be added to the Expert Roulette, or number 2B, there will be a new... I'd ask in the future, just ask the question. Like, without this, like, weirdness that's going... Like, I get it, but it's like, it's... it's the way it's structured is kind of, like... At night is kind of confusing to me. Question number 3, skill changes, your opinions on my suggestions. Paladin Sword Oath needs buff. I would suggest 10% skill speed and 20%. No. They do not need that kind of buff to Sword Oath. I would maybe say 25 potency added to it at most. Okay, so I can understand the skill speed part because a lot of people don't like that you can't keep up Halone, Goring Blade, and get Royal Authority off. HP has said that was an expected thing, that you wouldn't be able to keep 100% uptime on everything. And also, if you're going to give them a 10% skill speed buff, you would then give them a 10% TP cost reduction. You wouldn't give them a 20% TP cost reduction, because Dark Knight and Paladin are generally considered about even on their TP consumption right now. And that's, let me rephrase, that's assuming that the Dark Knight is in their, well, actually, no, it doesn't matter because their TP consumption, it's the same TP consumption pretty much across the jobs regardless at this point. This would just make them, you know, Dark Knights would then have more TP problems than the other two tanks, and we'd have to add something to them as well. Bard, wide volley, TP cost is higher than quick volley, but at the same potency, which they change it to a cooldown that doubles the TP cost of the next weapon skill and makes it AoE with the same range. That's unnecessary. Bard doesn't need any buffs. Like, they don't need any AoE buffs. They don't need any single target buffs. I don't know what you would do. I understand that quick volley is kind of not utilized as much because most people will just get in the position for quick knock, but it still has its uses. It still has its preferred area. If anything, just bump down its TP cost to be the same as the other. But then, you know, quick knock. Honestly, it's just the fact that quick knock and wide volley basically do the exact same thing in the exact same range. If anything, wide volley should have been less damage, but, you know, same TP, but it's AoE. I don't know, but it doesn't need this whole rework here. We're doubling the TP cost of weapon skills. It already cost a shit ton of TP. There's no point in making another skill AoE outside of, I guess, AoE dots, but that would just be ridiculously overpowered, and it's a buff Bard doesn't need. They don't need any buffs right now. It's more of a playstyle thing that people are complaining about. So honestly, really overkill on both of these. Like, they're just really overkill. The skill speed buff, not so much, but the TP cost part is really overkill, and I don't expect them. He's already expressed he wants it to be a challenge to keep all three of them up, or wants it to be something you actually have to think about in combat. So I just, these are just overkill. That's all I'll really say. Thank you for your questions. All right, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. Last time I didn't give you anything, so here's a Kingly Whisker. Those are like 18 mil. Holy moly. So me, White Mage, and our main tank, Dark Knight, have some issues that we can't solve, it seems. We would love your input on it. If it's too long, then there's the question in the end. Okay, I'm going to actually take your offer up on that. I'm going to take your offer up to just go to the question right at the end. So, summary question. Is melded gear still needed? And what do you think about healer DPS and tanks have DPS gear when it's not really needed anymore? So, I'm guessing that this entire point right here is regarding buying melded gear, whether or not it's worth it. It was way more worth it for initial clears. Now it's more of a min-maxing thing. If you're interested in min-maxing, it's great. It still has its high value like it did before. It probably won't be replaced until 3.2, to be honest, unless some of the, you can get some crazy accessories. Unless you can get some crazy accessories from the Free Company airship stuff, like, I don't expect it to be replaced. That being said, and what do you think about healers, DPS, and tanks have DPS gear when it's not really needed anymore? So are you asking me if a tank should throw on vitality accessories? Here's the thing. You could argue that the DPS isn't needed anymore. You could also argue that the tankiness isn't needed anymore because there's so much more healing. There is more mitigation from the gear itself, which just makes the value of that vitality gear, or that vitality, those vitality accessories, go down even more because you have the health from other sources. You don't need all that extra health, is all I'm really trying to say. And you could say that, you know, we don't need the DPS anymore. That may be true, but why wouldn't you want the DPS is the real thing. I think that they really need to look at, I think this is a tangent point, but to people who have been thinking about this, you know, healers needing to DPS and tanks need to, if anything, I think healers need, or at least a scholar, if you have a scholar in the room, whichever one of your two healers is the more dedicated healer, or is the more dedicated, you know, healer that DPS is, they should have accessories that have accuracy on them. That's definitely, I think the I-180 body is overkill now, like spending what, like 30 mil on that? No. Don't do that. That's for world first progression type. That's what you spend on world first progression, or when you ain't got shit else to do with your guild. But for healers and tanks, like, I wouldn't say it's not needed. A lot of people still need it on A3 Savage. Yes, in an optimal world where people all play their jobs properly, A1, 2, and 3 at the very least, you probably don't need that extra DPS. But if they're playing to that level as it is, then you might as well be utilizing the tools and getting as much DPS out of it as possible. And if you were playing on that level, odds are you would have cleared it much earlier, and again, you would have been considering them at the point. So the fact that not needed anymore is not really relevant. If your group still needs it, if your group hasn't cleared something, then it is in some way still needed or wanted. At the very least, needed is never the right term for it, but at least wanted to some degree, especially when you're looking towards A4 Savage. It's a very difficult question to answer properly. I didn't even really give you a solid answer. Is Melted Gear still needed? Not really, except for maybe A4 Savage. A3 definitely helps a lot, though, especially for healer DPS. And what do you think about healer DPS? I'm a fan of healer DPS. I'm a fan of tank DPS. I do think that Square Enix needs to make fights that are less stringent on those things, however. For example, if they just made, what's his name, Living Liquid use Digititis more often, and it was 2 healing debuffs from the start of or 2 DPS debuffs from the very start, it probably would have been more interesting, because they could have made more healing checks, because the healers were out of commission DPS wise for so long if you had those double digis. I'd like to see them work on more mechanics like that, and things that require the tanks to maybe think a little bit more about how they use their accessories, not automatically going to the crafted and the slang. The crafted will probably always be a big thing, but not automatically going to the slang. All right, next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, long-time watcher, first-time poster. Law as a bonus. Thank you. I was looking at all the primals we've faced thus far. They've all seemed to had a single element, while our new primals seem to have 2 or more. Ravana being fire and earth, and Bismarck being wind, water, and lightning. Is it safe to say that when we speculate our new primal, should we only be looking at summons, eidolons, espers, guardian forces, pick a name, that are affixed to more than one element, to help narrow it down instead of playing a guessing game? Or no matter what, we're playing a guessing game. You cannot automatically predict what will come next without some sort of clue. For example, you know, Doom Train is one of them. Also, I wouldn't say element is even a thought. A primal is not defined by its element. That being said, considering that crystals are needed, you know, fire, wind, water, earth, that it's got to at least have something affiliated to it. It needs to draw ether at the very least, and at least some part of it will likely pull from one of those 6 elements. I don't think it matters, though. I think they'll add whatever the hell they want, regardless of whether it has 1 element, 2 elements, 8 elements. You don't even have... Well, if you include light and dark, I guess we have 8 elements. But, you know, it could be a 5th dimensional creature. It doesn't matter. Like, they'll add whatever the hell they want when they want. I don't think it's even worth playing the guessing game, as opposed to just saying, I want to see this primal versus I think this primal will be next. 2 very different statements, and I think the first one is the more important one to worry about. Next question. Hi, Mr. Happy, longtime viewer, first-time asker, so I have a free stack of cookies. I like cookies. Not exactly a 14-related question, well, compound question, but for overall. What do you do in order to combat... Why am I talking so weird? It's well written, Happy. Read it. What do you do in order to combat burnout in an MMO? And a bit more specific, in multiplayer games in general. I have bouts of this happening on occasion, and I'm curious to know what your solutions are. I just play multiple games at once, like Blade and Soul, like Guild Wars 2. It's refreshing once in a while. And then you go back, and all of a sudden, it's a little bit more refreshing to play the thing that you're used to, because you're already good at it, and you're not learning like, oh yeah, this is a game I know. All of a sudden, it's like, damn, I'm really happy I know how to play this game in this class. Oh shit, I pressed the wrong button. I was trying to press F to interact with something, even though that's not how it works in this game. Just play other games. That's it. I don't believe in sticking to one game and only playing it forever. Unfortunately, that's kind of the mentality I had all growing up, so I missed a lot of games, so I get to go back and play them now. Just play other games. Honestly, that's my only advice. Next question. Hey, Haps. First time asking something here, so take some Inferno, Vortex, and Tremor Totems. Oh, man. That takes me back to 1.0 in a way I didn't want to go... Well, wait. Tremor Totems. This didn't exist. We didn't even have Titan back then. Maybe they did exist, but in different form. I just think it was the copper pieces. I just want to see your reaction to totems, but here, take a quick question. What's your opinion on Kiss of the Wasp and Kiss of the Viper? They barely had any impact on Ninja when it was released. Pretty much a choice between the Silence and the Sun. Hey, man, with Mug, when you have the HP drain, you don't get the increased item drop percentage. Just saying, that's another choice. They haven't expanded upon it. I feel like they could have expanded on so much more with these 2 stances. Instead, they just ignored it. Yeah. It would have been nice if they did something with Dream Within a Dream or duality within these 2, or even with some of the other skills. I mean, they made it seem like it was an important decision back when the job was in pre-release form, and it's whatever. Like, it's kind of like Fist of Fire, just it's like Fist of Fire 1 and Fist of Fire 2. There's such minor differences that it's like, if it matters, I'll change it. If not, I'll just go with Kiss of the Viper. I don't really care. I would have liked to have seen it expanded, not too much, but something to impact your choice a little bit more. It would have made the job changes to Ninja coming into the expansion a little bit more exciting, and by a little bit, I mean exciting at all, because the new abilities just weren't all that exciting. So, yeah, they could have done more with it. Alright, next question. Hey, Happy, since people give you stuff all the time, no soup for you. I love soup. That tomfoolery aside, I spent an hour compressing this as best as I could. Now I gotta read it. If I don't read this question, I'm gonna feel like an asshole. Question in bold. After that, I kind of rambled a bit, so sorry, my Italian brother from another mother. You're Italian. I understand. People forget the days when paladins did comparable damage to warriors, and people abandoned the axe for the sword and the blade, till the potential of warriors as the second DPS was attained. So, how do you feel about the homogenization of classes and jobs? Now, I'm curious to read the rest of it. Paladins doing comparable damage. Okay, so let me take that and put it into the terms that actually meant. When you went warrior main tank and paladin off tank, it was a higher raid DPS contribution than paladin main tank and warrior off tank. Even though the warrior would do more damage as an off tank, it also did more damage as a main tank. And the DPS gain from having the paladin be the primary off tank was higher than that of the warrior being the off tank. So it was a net DPS increase. I wouldn't say that when compared to the same role, they were ever directly comparable. They weren't bad. Let's be clear. When I say directly comparable, I mean they weren't all the way up to a warrior's level, but they were comparable to some degree. With the addition of Deliverance, Yoshi-P has explicitly stated part of the job now is to maximize Deliverance and get more damage out. That is supposed to be the job that they bring. So when it comes to the homogenization of classes and jobs, I don't really know. Because here's the thing. The jobs all have something in common now. They're all able to perform some sort of role, but they all have very distinct rotations and actual gameplay knowledge required for each one. So despite the fact that their ultimate function was homogenized, the play style of each of them was not homogenized, which is something that's pretty interesting to accomplish in terms of game development. But it seems like you're looking here for something along the lines of skill trees, where you have one job that can branch off into multiple roles or play styles, and it's something I'm okay with. It's just that skill trees have this sort of farce where you think you're getting a choice, but the internet decides what your best build will be for you, and then you play that, or everybody makes fun of you and doesn't want to play with you. So I think it could be beneficial to make it so that, you know, maybe like you say here, they have two different weapon choices. One's a DPS weapon, one is a tank weapon. As long as you're able to clearly identify it, which you should be able to with the way the game works in the duty finder, and if it changes the abilities accordingly. That being said, it's still kind of strange. I think we'll see it eventually, where, you know, things like Paladin DPS versus Paladin tank, and actual Warrior dedicated DPS versus Warrior tank. And even then, I still expect Deliverance to be a thing for Warrior tank, so it's hard to tell. But I think that they've actually done an interesting job homogenizing all of the classes and jobs without making them feel exactly the same when you're playing them. They all have their own rotations and unique playstyles to some degree. It's just about recognizing them and utilizing them. Alright guys, I only got a couple more questions left in me, maybe two, maybe three, we'll see, but gotta get this going because I got to get ready to go to bed. Got work to do in the morning. So, next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, is there a way to save different hotbar loadouts on different gear sets? I would like to equip one for PvE, one for PvP. No, and it has been one of my most highly requested things that they do. Please, Square Enix, hear this man's prayer, hear mine. Give me a different PvE and different PvP hotbar so I don't keep accidentally putting gold someplace it doesn't belong. And then going into raid several hours later and being like, oh shit, sorry, I forgot to rebind smoke screen. And then the healer pulls aggro and we all die. So I just like different loadouts, please. Alright, and the final question here. Hey, Mr. Happy, first time here, so got 3 questions. Wow, it's all this one paragraph. I want to ask one. Went to Fan Expo last month and to try out the new VR headsets. Will they be putting it, and if they can, in 14, and what will it feel like? They used it as like a test, a technical test, to use it for 14 for like a Titan. It's kind of pointless because you never want to raid in first person. It would maybe be an experience. I'm not buying a VR headset to experience Eorzea. I've seen enough of Eorzea. If I want to go first person, I will. So they better not take development time out of important things like content for the game to implement something silly like virtual reality. I don't really care for it outside of that one thing Microsoft is doing with every time they show something with that Microsoft one, it's friggin' crazy with the Minecraft and the blocks, and then they were showing, I can't even remember, but it's crazy. 2, if you have to make a powerful raid team between League of Legends and Final Fantasy heroes, who will you pick? Can I just take all the League ones? Can I just take the Void? Just everything from the Void, whatever. They're all on my team. I don't know. I don't think about these kind of things. And 3, have you played 14 on PS4? Technically, technically I have. I played it on the PS4 at Fan Festival because they put me on a PlayStation 4 machine. Yeah, I'll stick with the PC. Thank you very much. Anyway, that's going to be the last question that I am going to answer for this episode. Thank you, everyone, for asking your questions. And remember, you can always ask your question for next week's episode using the description of the video. Go to the Dream Network forum, sign up there, and ask the questions. I know it's probably going to be hard to find with all the shit that's going on down there this week with the shirts, with Guild Wars 2, with... I don't even remember what I said at the beginning of the video, but all those things there, go check them out, and hopefully you guys are enjoying the weekly show as per usual. Remember to tune in to State of the Realm this Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, where we're going to be talking about some of the 3.1 previews, some of the lore stuff that we're speculating on. It's going to be a good show, so be sure to come by live or watch it on YouTube or listen to it on iTunes the next day. Anyway, I will see you all on the next video, and until then, take care.